Hey there, Careblazer. Do you want to avoid the constant arguments with your loved one or make it more likely that they are accepting of your help? In today's video, I'm going to give you an approach that will make those things much more likely, and I encourage you to use it whenever it's possible. Here's the thing. Many of you have talked to me about how your loved one resists your care when you try to give them help. Or when you try to change their behavior, they get upset with you or denied they need anything in the first place. And unless you change your approach, these behaviors are likely just going to get worse, which is going to make your position as the Careblazer that much more difficult. Let's avoid that from happening. I've worked with thousands of family members over the years who are caring for a loved one with dementia, and my ultimate goal is to help make caregiving a much smoother process for you, rather than the opposite, which I often see happen, is that the caregiving relationship puts additional strain on you and your loved one, making caregiving so much more difficult. This approach I shared recently with some of my care course members who were talking to me about struggles they were having with their loved one. And I want to share some of my responses to them with you all here on the channel. And if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button on your screen. It's totally free and it helps reach other caregivers around the world who don't yet know this channel exists. Okay, here's the approach. Whenever there is a difficult behavior or something frustrating that your loved one is doing, number one, don't call attention to that behavior. And number two, remove the obstacle. Let me share some specific examples that my care course members shared with me, how I told them they could apply this strategy. And I'm going to talk to you about why using this approach works so much better than actually trying to get your loved one to change. One of my Careblazers in my care course was telling me how her loved one with dementia constantly feeds the family dog from her plate. The Careblazer tries to tell her, no, stop, it's not healthy, don't do it, yet the behavior continues. Now, if asking your loved one to stop the behavior worked, that's great, wonderful. But for many of you, asking your loved one to change doesn't work, so this is where the strategy comes in. Rather than constantly correcting the person with dementia and saying, don't feed the dog, which is only going to create more strain in the relationship between you and the loved one with dementia, what you want to do is remove the obstacle altogether. So during meal times, perhaps the dog is not even in the same room. So just prior to meal times, the Careblazer might put the dog in another room or put the dog in the backyard if it's a good time of year. And so number one, that doesn't call attention to your loved one's behavior who's feeding the dog. And number two, it removes the obstacle entirely. And if the loved one happens to ask, where's the dog, which the loved one might do, you can come up and prepare ahead of time with a variety of answers, such as, I guess she's sleeping, she must be tired. She's in the yard, she had to use the bathroom. Or any other reassuring response you want to give in that situation. The beauty of this approach is that instead of correcting your loved one at every meal and feeling like you're banging your head against the wall, you didn't call attention to the behavior at all because the behavior can't happen because the obstacle is entirely removed. So think about if this is possible for any of those difficult behaviors your loved one is doing, can you remove the obstacle entirely? Let me give you another example from another care course member. So this care course member said that her loved one with dementia threw away perfectly good loaf of bread. And when she asked her loved one not to do that, he became really defensive and said he never did anything like that. Notice that approaching the behavior head on doesn't oftentimes solve the problem. In fact, it usually hurts the relationship you have with your loved one. So what we did is we brainstormed all kinds of different responses she could take in this situation or in similar situations that follow the approach of not correcting and removing the obstacle altogether. So for starters, if throwing out good bread is a frequent behavior, she can simply put the bread in a place that he doesn't have easy access to, like maybe hiding it in the back of the fridge. She could put a bell on the refrigerator door, so anytime he opens the refrigerator, she would hear that he's going in there, and she would be able to make her way to the kitchen. And if she sees he's about to throw it away, she can intervene by asking, "Oh, can I have a piece of that bread?" If she can't make it to the kitchen in time when she hears the bell, or maybe she missed it, she can get in the habit of frequently checking the trash can to see if any good food that's still wrapped has been thrown away and is sitting on the top, so that she can fish it out. But by asking him not to throw it out, he became defensive and denied that it happened. So we know that approach doesn't work. I wish it did, and if it does, go for it. But these are some creative ways to avoid the correcting by removing the obstacle. Careblazer, if I thought that constantly correcting your loved one and asking them to change worked, I would be all in and I would tell you to go for it all the time. But the majority of the time, that doesn't work. And the majority of the time, by you trying that head-on approach, it just makes your life more difficult. Does this approach make sense to you? If it does make sense to you and you can see how you could apply this to some behaviors, hit the thumbs up button on your screen. And if it doesn't make sense to you, or you don't think that this can work for some of your loved ones' behaviors, hit the thumbs down button. But whenever possible, Careblazer, my recommendation is just to remove the obstacle altogether. You simply take care of the issue, and in doing that, you avoid the argument entirely. I don't want your loved one to see you as a constant source of negative emotion, because even if they can't remember exactly what happened the day before or what's been going on in the caregiving situation in your relationship for the previous month or so, they do tend to remember the emotions that come up when you're around. And it's my ultimate goal that the primary emotion when you're around is not negative. Because when it is negative, that's when a lot more difficult behaviors start to happen, because your loved one starts to resist all of your efforts for care more and more. That's the key. That's my goal, to help avoid that negative relationship from getting stronger between you and your loved one. So remove the obstacle, avoid the confrontation, save the relationship. I'll be back next week with another video, Careblazer. In the meantime, if you haven't already, download your free Careblazer survival guide to get some strategies and tips to help you through this caregiving journey. Take care. I'll be back. Bye.